Um, Hello, my name is Taylor Anderson. I'm a customer success manager here at OpenSpace. I come from the construction industry myself. I was a project engineer for about 4.5 years before I came here to OpenSpace. And now I work specifically with specialty contractors to help them train and implement OpenSpace for their own companies. I've brought along with me here today Luis from Nibbi Brothers. If you wouldn't mind, Luis, can you just give a brief intro for yourself?
Of course, name is Luis Bindel. I'm an assistant project manager at Nibbi Brothers General Contractors in the city of San Francisco, California. Um, right now, I am in the Treasure Island Parcel C3.1 project, and I just transferred about 4 months ago from 4840 Mission. Both projects used OpenSpace, and yeah, just a little bit about Nibbi. Nibbi, we've been around since 1950, so more than 70 years in the industry. We do residential and commercial projects, mostly focused in low-income housing in the Bay Area. We have about 320 employees, and our annual construction volume is about $420 million. We also have a self-performed division of concrete, Nibbi Concrete, and we have a Nibbi self-performed services division where we self-perform windows and wood framing. So,
Awesome. Thank you so much. And would you mind just sharing a little bit of more information about your current project you're working on now?
of course, Treasure Island Parcel C3.1. This is a Mercy housing project, 100% affordable housing. This is going to bring in 138 units of low-income housing to the city. And yeah, the budget for the project is about $90 million. It's supposed to take 24 months, and right now we're right halfway through the project. We're framing level 4 out of 5 levels of wood framing, and we have 2 levels of concrete podium.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. And would you mind just kind of briefly describing how OpenSpace went from being a pilot for Nibbi just on one single project to being implemented company-wide as a technology?
Of course. So at 4840 Mission, my previous project, it was a very special project. So it was an $80 million project, low-income housing as well for bridge housing. And it was special because it has been our biggest self-performed project in our history. So out of the entirety of the work, 26% of the work was self-performed by Nibbi Concrete, Nibbi SBS, and Nibbi General. So the project team started looking into ways to mitigate risk. One of those ways was to do a high-level BIM model of the project. So we model everything: wall books, floor cassettes, even the nuts and bolts and the structural steel. And the other way that we mitigated risk was bringing in OpenSpace. So we started using OpenSpace in 4840 as a pilot last February, and we started seeing all these benefits and all these cost savings that it was bringing into the project. And as a company, we decided to make it a standard to use OpenSpace at all of our projects, and it became a policy to walk the project at least twice a week. So yeah, all Nibbi projects at this time are using OpenSpace just because of all the benefits that it brought in when we ran the pilot at 4840 Mission.
And would you mind just explaining the implementation process as far as going from one project to multiple with OpenSpace?
Of course. So when we first started implementing OpenSpace at the 4840, it was right around the time that we were getting close to pouring our first concrete deck, and we had a post-tension deck, we had 2 post-tension decks in the project. So by walking the site with OpenSpace, basically you got to see all the post-tension cables on the concrete deck, where if you were to set a sleeve or an opening in the wrong location, chipping out and creating that opening later would not only be a safety hazard because the post-tension cables could go flying, it is also very expensive. I think our concrete division charges about $4,000 per chlorine, and it's also a company policy that you need to scan the deck because it's, you don't want to hit one of those cables. So we started using it a lot to just seeing cable locations after we pour the deck, because we had to relocate a couple sleeves per to comply with ADA standards, or just because an HSS post had to change. Things, all kinds of things happen in construction and things change down the road. So having that kind of access to seeing the post station cables in the deck really brought in a lot of attention in the company. And then we started seeing a couple other ways that we were able to be more, or we were getting more productive in the job site by using OpenSpace, like bringing it up in meetings, solving issues with subcontractors. The remote access saved a lot of time, and time is money. So lots of different benefits for the company. And Nibbi, at some point, they saw all these benefits, and we basically told all the project managers at the different projects to bring in OpenSpace and start using it. And it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was a smooth transition, because we were seeing that in a couple of job sites, not everyone was walking the site twice a week or once a week. Some of the job sites, they had gotten the camera, but they weren't implementing it as often. So at one of our company-wide meetings, they asked me if I could present on a couple of ways that we use OpenSpace and at 4840, and the different benefits that it had brought in with very specific case studies and examples. And I presented for the whole company, and that's when a lot of interest grew, and they started to see the different ways that you could use OpenSpace to save money. And then it became a big thing, and people started asking more questions, and a push for documenting and walking the site more often began. So yeah, I would definitely recommend for companies who are struggling to implement OpenSpace with frequency, to just hold a company-wide meeting and bring the examples of how OpenSpace can help with productivity and efficiency in a project.
Yeah, that's amazing, because people don't always know, how many different use cases there are for open space. So that's great that you're able to show them all that with specific cases from your own project.
Right. Mainly, like, I feel like some people, they see OpenSpace as a documenting tool. It's kind of like a swap from taking photos on the job site with your phone and uploading them to your platform, Procore or PlanGrid, to just having a 360 photo of the job site just for documenting. But it's way more than that. I can give you a few examples of how, other than just documenting our job site, OpenSpace has really benefited Nibbi.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah, of course. So just specific to Treasure Island, for example, our current consultant for our lead sustainability certification, she is based in Germany. So we have given her access to OpenSpace, just so when we start doing all the components that she has to inspect, she can access OpenSpace from Germany and start doing those inspections. So she doesn't need to, fly out every now and then to carry out those inspections. So remote access. And I think I already talked about remote access. For example, if you're a project engineer and you're mainly the person who is told to go to the job site to take a photo of something specific, you're taking like 15 minutes to do that, and you're probably doing that like 3 times a day. That adds up on the span of a project. It's a lot of money now. I mean, not to mention the hourly rate of the superintendent, right? So just that remote access, that you can just, with a couple of clicks on your desktop, you can access the project instead of walking 15 minutes to take a photo and coming back and then uploading the photo to your computer and putting it on an email or a PDF. You're saving so much money and just like remotely accessing the project, right? So that's one. Basically, we use OpenSpace for our RFIs. We take screenshots of OpenSpace and put it on our PDFs so that you can have a visual representation of the issue. With the beam compare feature, so it's also an Nibbi standard now to do a beam 3D model of all of our projects. So we integrate the model to OpenSpace, and with the beam compare, before you even pour the concrete deck, you can already start basically inspecting the location of the plumbing sleeves, the fire sleeves, the blockout locations that are based off the model, just with the split view side by side. So you can double check that everything is in the right place before you pour the concrete deck, and you can find issues before they become an issue. And also after they're poured, if you start seeing in the model side by side that perhaps the plumber is routing their lines differently than what the model shows, you can catch it instantly with OpenSpace. And that could save issues down the road in case they're coming out from a soffit or a ceiling space. So super powerful tool. We also do QA/QC with OpenSpace. So we started jumping on the scaffold and documenting with OpenSpace the exterior conditions of my previous project. 4840 had several exterior components. So we had lap siding, we had fiber cement panels, fiber cement panel reveals, we had Nishiha, we had plaster, and all these components tied together. So the details that we had for the transitions between the exteriors were a little intricate, and we wanted to make sure that we were following the details and documenting, everything in case we encounter issues down the road. So by using OpenSpace and jumping on the scaffold, basically grabbing the camera with one hand instead of putting it on your hard hat, you could easily verify that the waterproofing details were being carried out as per detailed in the contract drawings. So that that will cover us in case something happens down the road, to just double check and verify that we were following the correct details that were given to us. At the same time, by just using OpenSpace and at the same time, just by using OpenSpace and going back in time, you can chase credits. So this is one that we discovered kind of like when we were finishing up the exteriors in 4840, we started realizing, because a lot of things were getting buried with the exterior siding and in walls, and things were getting insulated within the walls, you could actually go back in time and chase credits from subcontractors that were probably not building things the way you bought it from them. And you could just, pull up those captures from the time that when you walked OpenSpace, and you could verify that what things were not being built the way you bought them. And that's something that before you really couldn't, because you really had to take a photo of everything all the time. But now you actually could go back and see what was provided to you versus what you bought. And in case you're short in cash in the project, you could go and dig up those credits. And then the other thing is transparency. I feel like with OpenSpace, we started using it in our foreman's meetings, in our staff meetings, and sometimes in our owner meetings. And basically, before, there was always a dispute about who did what and how an issue developed in the project. OpenSpace provides that transparency to basically settle disputes. Basically, you can just go back in time and see what happened at a certain period of time and not have any room for misunderstandings or interpretation. It's just, you can see it in 360 how things were built. So when we're in foreman's meetings and people start talking about scheduling, for example, and the plumber, for example, is saying, oh yeah, I was 80% complete at level 4 by last week, and then you pull up OpenSpace and you see that the capture actually shows that he's 30%, it literally basically settles the dispute. So, and same goes back to the GC. Sometimes the GC is wrong, and then OpenSpace proves that the subcontractors are right, or sometimes the architect is right and it proves that the GC is wrong. So it's just that transparency that it brings to construction. So yeah, those are a few ways.
No, that's all fantastic. I really appreciate you sharing all of that with us, and it was really great having you here today.
Cool. Well, thanks so much. Thanks for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
All right, great session. Thank you, Taylor and Luis. That was awesome. So now we're on to our second session, our second interview with Kitchell. And this is Josh Hines from our team, as well as Jeff Manders. And they're going to talk about how Kitchell's been using OpenSpace in some cool ways on a complex healthcare project, including things like 3D scans and drones. So Josh, take it away.
All right, awesome. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this session today. My name is Josh Hines. I'm a customer success manager here at OpenSpace. A bit about my background, been here for close to 2 years, had a chance to work with general contractors across the country, And before my time at OpenSpace, I had a chance to work for Walsh Construction on a heavy civil job in San Francisco. As far as what we're going to cover today, we actually have the privilege of bringing on one of the OG OpenSpace users, Mr. Jeff Manders. Jeff is a man of many trades, but wears the hat of a senior Vicon engineer at Kitchell currently. Jeff has been one of the top OpenSpace users over the past 3 years and actually was one of our first Pathfinders. And the Pathfinder Award is given to users that are driving innovation and using technology at their companies, similar to how Jeff has done. Jeff, I probably butchered up some stuff along the way there, so I'd love to have you give a quick intro, tell us a bit about your role at Kitchell, and a little bit more about the project that you're working on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I started my role as a senior Vicon engineer at Kitchell. The journey really began back in November of 2018. I got put on our Valleywise Health Medical Center project. And that's sort of a multi-phase project that includes a central utility plant upgrade, as well as site utility upgrades throughout the campus, and then a new acute care tower. So my role in that job was initially kind of learning how to use surveying applications and laser scans to support our BIM team in the BIM effort to coordinate the models for all these different buildings. While I was in our Vicon department, I kind of also picked up drone photography, which is probably one of my favorite technical skills that I've picked up here at Kitchell. And that really sparked my enthusiasm for construction technology and photography that eventually led to me being assigned to investigate different types of reality capture options that we could go with. And after digging into a few different potential solutions, I ultimately proposed OpenSpace. And since then have helped our project team and other project teams within Kitchell implement OpenSpace and kind of be a reference to them as best uses and use cases, room for improvement, and then supporting the job team with technology implementation in general, either helping them with their iPads and how to use Procore and reference the model, and also obviously reference OpenSpace and kind of provide them with a everyday easy to use tool to kind of support the life cycle of the job.
Awesome. And I'd say you guys have done a pretty good job with it. It looks like since 2020, July of 2020, you guys used an OpenSpace on the job. You guys have over 2,700 360 captures, 240 3D scans, all sorts of stuff. So you guys have been doing an awesome job with it.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm probably taking 360 photos more than I like sleep or something. But, yeah, no, it's been great. And it's been, even though it only has been 3 years, that capture process has come such a long way from, I think we started with a Insta360 1R was the first 360 camera that I got for OpenSpace, to now having kind of like a team of OpenSpacers on the job covering photo documentation for the whole project. Has been quite the transition in terms of like our company's standard documentation process.
I'd say so. And Jeff, before we jump into how you guys have used OpenSpace, I'm curious, before using OpenSpace, how did you guys typically document your projects?
Well, before this, you were kind of just limited to your phone and just either uploading it to Procore or PlanGrid or whichever project management software that your team was utilizing. And we had experimented with some 360 photo capture solutions, but they were very tedious and tough to put together, and getting teams to like use it and have it actually be a resource to them was a lot of input hours for somebody to put together for not a lot of output. So now with how easy it is to capture so much space with 360 photos, and then also on the user end, really simple to go and find what you're looking for. That's kind of the progress that we've made here.
Awesome. Yeah, and that kind of hammers it home too. Just make it easy for you guys to use out in the field as well as back in the office. So anyways, that kind of takes us into kind of the main point of the conversation today, Jeff, which is capture how you want. And really, you guys have kind of taken advantage of this in OpenSpace. The first thing I wanted to chat through with you is basically the 360 video capture option, which is the quickest and easiest way to capture the job site in the industry. Talk me through how you guys have kind of used the 360 video capture option on ValueWise.
Sure. So we've used the 360 video capture as our kind of primary method for progress tracking and having a record of work that is in place or not in place. And then beyond that, for in-wall MEP systems and having a record of that. So that can, come into like sort of change order coordinations and determining whether or not someone's responsible for rework to be done. So either as simple as that, or if a change needs to get made to the drawings, which happens. Sometimes we need a new drawing set, or the owner wants to change something. You kind of have a good visual of what that space looks like just when you're having that conversation out the get-go, so you can see, what are we really getting into when it comes to the dollars and cents and how much rework we're going to start going to be needed to do here.
Gotcha. And with it being such a big project too, it looks like you guys have done a great job with this, Jeff, but how did you guys go about deploying? Was there a schedule that you guys developed, or any tips and tricks on how to capture such a large project?
Sure. So the tower is just north of like 675,000 square feet of healthcare facility. So there's a lot of rooms, a lot of beds, patient rooms that you have to cover. Originally, when we were just doing the structure part, or structure construction, myself, I was able to capture all that space. But once walls start going up and you have to get into every nook and cranny of the hospital, then that's when you kind of need some more manpower, boots on the ground, more cameras, more project engineers to help support that effort. So we kind of came up with a schedule or a routine to have certain people capture their floors like twice a week. So either have at the start and end of a week, or midweek and end of a week, and between that and other photos that you take throughout the course of a week, you have a pretty good album of kind of the history of the job.
Got it. Yeah, you guys have done a great job with that. Clearly, it looks like you guys have captured basically every week for the last 3 years. So pretty impressive.
We got a lot.
Yeah, a lot in there.
Takes a little motivation to get those project engineers to put the camera on their head at first, but they get over it. Soon it becomes one of their favorite parts of the week.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Cool. And with you guys using OpenSpace over the past 3 years, Jeff, a lot's changed, both our system, technology, that kind of stuff. Tell me kind of how you guys have adapted over the last 3 years on ValueWise for capturing, as far as either the technology you've used with OpenSpace, or just how you've leveraged like the capture options.
Sure. So I guess one of the main things to factor in when you're doing photo documentation is lighting. And throughout the course of a job, you get less and less light. So once the walls go up and you have a lot of dark spaces, you kind of need, higher quality cameras. And luckily, the 360 camera options are evolving pretty much just as fast as any other technology, your phones or drones, what have you. And being able to constantly increase the resolution of photos and quality that we're getting out of them, as well as being able to adapt to taking photos in dark environments where you may not have the light you need, but the camera can, supplement that. Then beyond just dark rooms, and you get into like above ceiling photos. Definitely not a lot of light above ceiling, so that's been one of my favorite uses for the 1RS, the 1-inch, being able to get a super high res clear photo above ceiling for reference for either the inspector or the trade partners, whoever needs to see what's up there. We're just record keeping at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. And it's been cool to see those new cameras. It's amazing. It's like going from a Razr phone to an iPhone. It's been pretty night and day seeing the difference. So awesome to see it's worked for you guys. And you mentioned, Jeff, capturing like above ceiling in dark spaces. That kind of leads us to our next capture option that you guys have done a really good job of leveraging, which is the 360 photo option. Tell me a little bit more about how you guys have used that out on Valleywise.
Sure. So the 360 photos, those are going to be more applicable when you really want a clear picture, free of the blur that you might catch in a 360 video walk. So that's going to be applicable to like right before you close up walls, or also above ceiling, just because it's a still photo. It's going to handle the dark environment a lot better. But any instance where you want a nice clear photo without, the possible risk of a blurred image, or you need that level of detail, the 360 photo is going to be the option to get you that higher resolution.
Yeah, definitely. And you guys have used that kind of for your last in-wall captures too, right, Jeff?
Yeah, so we use the 360 photos for in-wall capture. That can get tricky on a big job where you kind of have to coordinate with the trade partners to clear out the rooms and keep a clean site so that you have a field of view of all the walls in the room. So if I have to walk into a room and take 4 still 360 photos, that can get tedious and time consuming. And that's kind of when I started transitioning to the 3D scans feature that OpenSpace rolled out. That was a super exciting beta that I was able to kind of test out, get a feel for, see where we'd be able to use that. And being able to take 3D scans of in-wall roughing before walls close up is much more convenient. If there's something in the room, then I can walk around it. And the best part is being able to take measurements. So
yeah, that's a great transition too, Jeff. So that's also another big question that comes up is, cool, we have these 360 images, but can we take measurements from our captures? And you kind of hit the nail on the head there. It sounds like you guys have really leveraged that for, in-wall documentation, that kind of stuff. But yeah, tell me more about 3D scans and how you guys have leveraged that tool.
Yeah, so being able to take measurements from a photo when you first show someone, kind of like knocks their socks off. They're like, how do you do this? So I kind of give them the rundown of what's going on and kind of show them how accurate of a dimension you can pull. You can get plus or minus an inch, and if you're mismeasuring studs on center or elevation of backing, elevation of J boxes, elevations of whatever fixture that might be in the wall, just to verify it. And let's say something does have to change, as I mentioned, if they want to move that TV a little bit to the left, well, a lot of the time that backing will extend to that next stud, and you might not have to open the wall to put new backing in. So if you can go back in time and pull a measurement from an old photo and confirm that you don't have to open the wall up, that's money and time saved.
That's huge. And it has to be nice too, because the beauty of that 3D scan feature is it's not this complicated call up and get a laser scan scheduled for the project. It's super simple and easy to use the phone. Has that saved you guys quite a bit of time just doing quick scans here and there?
Yeah, I was able to capture many more rooms with the 3D scan feature than with the 360 photo. If you're doing the 360 photo, you kind of need like the tripod and that whole deal. But when you just need a phone, you don't even need the 360 camera just for this feature. So if you got a LiDAR sensor on your phone, you're set, you're good to go.
Yeah, super quick and easy. Awesome, cool. Well, I guess this takes us to primarily the last capture option that you guys have really used out there, Jeff, which is also one of our newest ones. drone captures. That's kind of all the talk on job sites right now, and it seems like everybody's talking about drones and what's being done with them. Tell me about kind of the drone captures that you guys have taken out at Valleywise and where that Insta360 sphere cameras kind of work for you.
Yes, the drones. I love flying the drone. That's one of the best parts about my job for sure. And then OpenSpace being a real close 1-2 probably, but being able to marry those two up and get to do both at the same time was a super cool opportunity to start taking on. So that only just came out earlier this year, and by that time, a lot of our exterior progress was pretty much wrapping up, aside from putting the sign on the side of the building. But just in terms of testing it out and seeing how close to the elevation that you can get and how steady you have to fly, it maps it out real well on elevation or plan view. I've been using it mostly for our remaining site work that we have around the campus, just for general progress documentation and as-builts for any remaining electrical underground that goes out to like light poles or bollards or irrigation lines for landscaping. That's a super easy, just 8-minute tops flight around part of the campus. And then another instance where we'll pull that up is if we're in our like site logistics and coordination meetings. So for those, I'll take the drone to a higher altitude and kind of fly a lap around the campus. And that's just a great resource to have, just like in a coordination meeting to pull up with facilities or the security team, just to kind of communicate what our impact to the campus is this week and what it's going to be next week, and what we have to plan for different patient routes or different ambulance routes, or just communication and making sure that the patients and the staff of the existing hospital, it's not that they're not impacted, but how we're going to make it through it together.
Yeah, and that's huge. I'm sure with a complicated project like Valleywise, keeping access to all those key units in the building and campus are huge. And I'm sure it's created a level of comfort between you guys and the owner as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. We built a really good relationship. At first, taking over almost all of their parking was a bit of an impact and a shock to them. But after working together on the same campus with this team, it's evolved a ton, and right now we're pretty seamlessly communicating, coordinating just impacts to different phases of the operation day to day of the hospital. So that's a nice little tool to have in our toolkit to be able to communicate that.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Well, Jeff, that was a lot, and you really kind of walked us through basically how you guys have used OpenSpace to capture how you want. So we really appreciate the time here. And for those of you in the audience, if any of you are looking for some really cool videos to watch, Jeff, I feel like is always publishing some cool drone videos showing off the Valleywise job and some other Kitchell projects as well. So Jeff, thank you so much for your time. This was extremely helpful for us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure working with you guys and being able to share how you guys have helped us be better at what we do and increase the quality and transparency of our day to day. So
definitely.
Awesome. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, no problem, Jeff. Thanks, man.
All right. Thank you, Josh and Jeff. What a great session. That was awesome. Thanks so much. All right. So third in our lineup of 5 customer conversations, we're going to hear from Rosendin Electric and how they're using OpenSpace to resolve disputes and to improve coordination between the field and the office. I'll hand it back over to Taylor to go on with the conversation.
So hello, I'm back here again for another session. In case you missed it, my name's Taylor Anderson and I'm a customer success manager here at OpenSpace. Most of my experience previously comes from the construction industry, where I worked as a project engineer for about 4 years at a large GC. I now work exclusively with specialty contractors to help them implement OpenSpace for their companies. One of the contractors I work very closely with is Rosendin Electric. I've brought along with me here today 3 lovely gentlemen from Rosendin who are going to be sharing with us a little bit about how they've used OpenSpace thus far. Jose, Christopher, and Evan, would you each just mind giving us a brief introduction of yourself and what you do at Rosendin?
Sure. I'm Jose Samaniego, the Field Applications Development Manager for Rosendin. I've been here for 8 years, and my job is to find new software and technology that could help benefit the field, whether it's quantifying, setting things up, communication, or anything else.
Hey, my name is Christopher Ducar. I am a inside wireman out of our local union here in Phoenix, Arizona. I started off as an apprentice, and after 7 years in the field, I moved into the office. I now have been with Rosendin for close to 11 years, and I now operate as a field application specialist, helping to deploy new technologies and tools to our field teams.
And I'm Evan Stopnick. I work as a BIM layout specialist, and in a minor capacity, I also work as the liaison between the field, doing training to implement all the technologies from our department.
Fantastic. Thank you guys for sharing. And can you guys just tell us a little bit about Rosendin and how OpenSpace went from being on one project to almost about 80?
Yeah, so in the beginning, we started off with a single project as a pilot to get it out there and show what it can do and see what resources and everything we could pull from it as a team. And it started off slow. There was several months where we went from one project to like 5 projects and 7 projects. And part of the learning process was getting to know that wearing the camera was like a joke for a lot of people. It made everybody feel silly and weird, but once they started using it and I got past the silliness and funness about it, they started realizing the benefits that they were getting from it. And so as the project would go on and the PMs would move from project to project, they were now requesting to take OpenSpace with them. So it went from us having to go out and try and talk about it and get the teams involved to where they were just going out and getting everybody else involved on their own.
Awesome.
Yeah, and just to expand on that, after a little over a year of trial and error like that, going from a few small projects, we had a division manager from Southern California reach out to us and actually flew me out there, and we had really started aggressively expanding our OpenSpace technology within our project grouping. And so with the emergence of that, getting like 15 or 20 new projects on board all at once, I think the benefits of Southern California, the Northern California people really started to take off with that as well once they saw the success of that being implemented in SoCal. So our expansion went from very quickly from about 20 projects, and we're currently sitting at 80. So pretty good usage right now.
Yeah, that's definitely not bad. I'm happy to see that you guys have that many active projects in there.
Yeah.
And Jose, what are some of the ways that OpenSpace has helped you and your project teams with any installation disputes?
So I can speak of one project that was like really comes to mind. Is it was one of our larger projects where there was like it was a tent they built for servicing different tools and everything, and the team was trying to let the GC know that it was built wrong. So it was like 90 degrees rotated where it's supposed to be, but everybody didn't believe or anything. So utilizing OpenSpace as they walked the area and showing where we were stubbing up for our panel locations to go along with that tent, they realized that the panels were actually going inside the tent where the stub up was going to be versus where they needed to be. So that was a real good thing for us to show, to prove that it actually was off, and going back and using the history tracking to go and show it's been this way and match it up with our emails back and forth stating that that was one of the issues that we're going to have and being able to prove it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Certainly those kind of things come up all the time, and you don't always have photos of those kind of things when they do come up. So I'm glad you were able to utilize OpenSpace for that. And Christopher, do you have any examples on how you used OpenSpace on disputes?
Yeah, one of our large projects, we've had a large amount of in-slab conduits. In the nature of concrete pours, our conduits have a tendency to get destroyed and mangled during that type of operation. So OpenSpace has been a crucial tool in us for tracking and documenting the amount of damages that have occurred during the duration of those concrete pours.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing, Christopher. And Evan, I know you work a little more closely with your actual project field teams. Do you have any examples of that you'd like to share about how your project teams have been using OpenSpace thus far?
Yeah, well, I'll just expand on part of why NorCal gravitated towards using OpenSpace more and migrating towards it in a more aggressive manner, because they once the implementation of PlanGrid really opened up things on the field side. So going through, and they're really aggressive people with their field notes. So they use a lot of field notes, and they take a lot of detailed notes and photos on their jobs. And so with the integration of the PlanGrid portion of it, it really sort of sold itself in their eyes, because they use PlanGrid on basically every project in California. And so just being able to track the issues with the field notes function has really been a game changer for them. So I know that a lot of our projects have been using that as well.
Yeah, that's great, Evan. And do you have any projects that have been using our BIM viewer tool as well?
Absolutely, yeah. Southern California specifically has been using a lot of our BIM viewers or the BIM viewer tool. I know that that's part of the success for a lot of the, not just the initial expansion, but going from 20 to about 40 projects in Southern California was really due to the BIM department sort of selling itself with the BIM viewer.
That's great. And do you think that so far with that BIM viewer that a lot of your project teams have been able to collaborate a little bit easier with the VDC department as far as changes in the model and that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's really cool about it is the modeler and coordinators don't really get a lot of field value, and they don't really see these things as real objects. And so to have them have the ability to see something in real time, pop up and see it in a contextual value was beneficial to them, because it's not just a theoretical thing in a model anymore.
Yeah, that is great. I really appreciate you all meeting with us here today. Just wanted to say thank you for being such great partners of OpenSpace, and I'm excited to continue working with you in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, Taylor.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, Taylor and our friends from Rosendin. It's really great to hear how the trades are using OpenSpace and benefiting from it as well. And now on to our next session, customer session, number 4 out of 5. We're going to hear from an owner's rep, Amesbury Companies. And so Amesbury's been using us. You'll hear how they've been using us for everything from pay apps to facilities management. And I'm going to hand it over now to my colleague, Nicole Regg, to lead us in that discussion. Nicole?
All right. Hi there. My name is Nicole Rigg, and I am a customer success manager here at OpenSpace. Really excited to be here alongside one of our partners today, Kurt, who's with Amesbury Company, and is excited to share a little bit of information about what they have going on related to field notes within their organization. I guess to kick things off, Kurt, I know we've been working together for some time now, but I would love for you to give a quick introduction about yourself and your role at Amesbury.
Sure. Well, I've been with Amesbury Companies for a number of years, and I'm the owner's representative on all of the projects that we perform with a third-party contractor. So I kind of look over their shoulder and make sure things are going as they should. And as far as in-house projects, the construction that we do under our own roof, I'm the qualifying party for the construction company and major capital projects as well.
It's really awesome to hear. And I know we've been working really closely on a really big project of yours, Hudson at Killeen, for a bit now. But can you share a little bit about that project in particular?
Yeah, so that's the second of 2 projects that we've done with OpenSpace. Certainly using it in a more robust way than we did the first project. So a whole lot of usage at this Texas project. We were over there tracking construction to make sure that when we get to the end of the month and it's pay app time, I can actually look at a draft pay app, dig into OpenSpace, and qualify what the requests are remotely before I even take the trip. If there's a revision that comes about, I can detect that, and the general contractor can make a revision before I even show up. So it's really handy in that way. Tracking construction. Of course, we're doing the same sorts of things that we did in the first project. We're taking all of the open wall captures during rough ends and vertical construction, so we can always look back, and if there's a problem, we can look inside the wall virtually and detect problems and use it as a quality control element as well.
Yeah, and taking a step back here, Kurt, I think you actually have a pretty interesting story about how you got started with OpenSpace. Ultimately, why did Amesbury decide to make an investment in our product?
Well, good question. I looked at a lot of different solutions that would enable us to track the construction and record it, save that data, because during construction, it's really important, but it's equally as important after construction. So when we get a project delivered to us, if in 5 years we have an issue come up, we can look virtually inside of that wall where there's a problem and decide how to address the problem, or even where to open a wall up, to limit damage, to limit the repair, and address things in that way. So when we got into OpenSpace, it was really for that reason. And during the course of using the product, we learned we could use it in different ways. And so some really from tracking, it turned into the pay application qualifications. And from there, it even morphed into punch list, a way to use it for our punch list.
Yeah, and I think things even evolved a little bit from there with regards to not only punch lists, but ultimately how you've been able to leverage the tool for facilities management, correct?
Yeah, so our facilities, for example, the first project we used OpenSpace on was in Louisiana. And these days, if a problem comes up, we actually had a problem where an underground wire was cut. Well, with all the landscaping in and the sod down and trying to track where this happened was difficult. So we referred back to OpenSpace. We were able to look at where the contractor trenched and track down where the break would be in the wire. And sure enough, we found it without a whole bunch of exploration. So from a facilities point of view, that was pretty handy. And it's come into play when we have to repair plumbing elements, looking at vent pipes in a wall, maybe. If you have a leak or something like that, you can look at that vent pipe and see where the a joinery might occur and dig into that wall in that one specific location.
Now, with owning a majority of your projects and maintaining them throughout, I guess, the future history, what are some ways that you even see being able to leverage OpenSpace when it comes to, having to without having to break into the walls in the future?
Well, there's always equity in having this data. So most of the stuff we build, if not all of the stuff we build, is a long-term hold. And but that being said, if one day it were to sell, it would be valuable to us. So we think it would be valuable to another owner to have this data in case of a eventual problem to a new owner. He can do just what we did to fix a problem more efficiently. And so there's value in having this data when you finish a product and what the future might hold for the project itself.
Yeah, you have some really good points there. And, on top of not only facilities management, I know you mentioned that punch list was also kind of that hidden feature that you're excited to uncover after you started to dig into using OpenSpace more. Can you share a little bit about how we've been leveraging field notes, especially on the Hudson at Killeen project to date?
Yeah, so that's turned into probably our, I don't know about our biggest usage, but a huge usage punch list. It's probably equal to the site captures and the in-wall captures that we have. But we've formulated a way to use tags, statuses, and the other sorting elements in field notes to custom tailor how we capture a field note. So if there's a punch list item that we need to capture, of course, we'll take a photo of it, but we'll tag the building and the unit number. And initially we'll give it a status of verified, that blue button. And that just lets us know this is a new item and it's open. After we go back, we can actually sort those items, publish a report that the general contractor gets. And when he begins to fix items, he will go to that field note. He'll upload his own repair photo, and we can look at it from a different state remotely and either approve it and click it complete or not. And then we'll look at it again in person at our next site visit. But that enables us to track how many items the general contractor has addressed, and if the repair is sufficient. So when our second trip to see what he's done occurs, it's hopefully a lot smaller than the first trip because we've already approved a lot remotely.
That's understandable. And I know you have a few team members that are involved in the punch process that go out on site and are responsible for taking these field notes. Can you share a little bit about the process with getting your team on board with using field notes and, just some of the overall process flows as it comes to your team with getting them ramped up?
Sure. Well, you certainly have to run through how to sort and how to create a field note with the team. It's not a big learning curve, but it's a little bit of time up front. Once they get used to it, and they do, in our case, right, we have multifamily projects that we build, and we'll have as many as 200 to 300 units that need to be punched, as well as a clubhouse. So there's a whole lot of repetition, and they get very familiar with it. But they can use their cell phones. We've invested in cellular iPads, so they're using those in the field. And if for some reason you need to get into your desktop and make adjustments or edits, that's easy enough to do as well. But the team kind of has a core group of folks that are very, very used to using OpenSpace. And so yeah, when they go out there, if they have a question or whatever, I'm sort of the set it up in the system guy. I'll create all the tags and different things like that for them to use. So if there's a glitch, they'll call me. I'll try to fix it on the desktop, and it occurs in real time in the field.
So we're really using a variety of different methods and even devices to create these field notes, it sounds like.
We are.
Great. Well, Kurt, I really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today and share a little bit about your story and, of course, Amesbury Company, about your use of OpenSpace. Of course, it's a pleasure to partner with you and looking forward to seeing how we continue to progress with field notes here in the future.
Sounds great. I appreciate y'all having me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Nicole and Kurt. Great to hear from an owner's perspective on how OpenSpace adds some value. So next up, we're going to hear from Humphrey Rich Construction Group, led by Michael Williams from OpenSpace, and how Humphrey Rich is using OpenSpace to track safety issues and then track that back to their mitigating risk and with their insurance companies. So I'll hand it over to Michael. Take it away.
Hey everyone, I'm Michael Williams. I work on the strategy team here at OpenSpace. I've been with OpenSpace for just over 2 years, and I focus on ways that we can have our customers get more out of OpenSpace. Two of the main areas I focus on are the insurance and safety industries. So we have a really good use case here of a way that you can get more use out of OpenSpace by integrating OpenSpace and particularly field notes within your safety teams. So I have the pleasure of introducing our co-panelists, Tom Garcia and Susie Garcia, both with Humphrey Rich. Tom is the Vice President of Project Management at Humphrey Rich, and he is responsible for overseeing projects from pre-construction to completion. And Susie is a safety manager at Humphrey Rich, and she has the great task of ensuring safety on job sites and ensuring that the Humphrey Rich team has safe work environments as they complete projects. So Susie and Tom, thank you so much for joining me. We're really excited to have you guys here to talk a little bit more about how you guys get more use out of open space.
Thanks for having us. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to be here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I guess I'll turn it over to you, Tom, first. If there's, I gave a brief introduction, but if you want to talk a little bit more about some of the things that you do for Humphrey Rich and kind of your day-to-day, that would be great. And then we'll do the same with Susie.
Yeah, so I've been with Humphrey Rich Construction since we started. We're going on 20 plus years at this point. I've always worked on the project management side, and my primary responsibilities on day to day is obviously to find efficiencies that we can, utilize to help our teams in the field, our office teams and so forth. And of course, all stakeholders, which are owners and, vendors and so forth. What can we do better to, deliver our products to our clients.
Great, thanks, Tom. And Susie, if you don't mind, just talk a little bit more about your day to day and what your primary roles are and how long you've been with Humphrey Rich.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm sometimes referred to affectionately or not affectionately as Safety Susie. I've been with HR for little over 7 years. And my day-to-day is to help facilitate safe and mitigate risk on every project site that we have. So I like to consider myself as a tool to each project team. And then I go out as I can and then have a look around and then see if we need to tweak anything.
Great. Let's jump into, this is a really great use case, and I think I should address the elephant in the room. Susie and Tom, if you guys recognized, have the same last name. So we have an amazing husband and wife duo, and a really cool use case on how they both find a lot of value out of using open space in their day-to-day roles. So Tom, I'll go to you first. If you don't mind, if you could just tell us a little bit more of how you first learned about open space and then how you started implementing it within HR and rolling out across multiple projects.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, a primary function for me is just trying to find easier ways or more efficient ways for us to do things. I've been, as I said, 20 years here, but 27 years in the industry. So I always have my eyes open for, what can I do to improve what we're doing, and obviously for myself personally, as well as the company. So in 2019, I attended a groundbreak event with Procore. So I was very intrigued when I saw the open space booth there and some great guys dealing with presenting your product. So I was, I walked away with that. It's like, there's got to be something that I can do with this. Having done this for so long, I've been, tasked with documenting things. We had photos that we used to have to take and go to a developer and do those types of things to get them brought back to the office, then shared with other people to, it's just a very arduous way to get information out and receive feedback from, designers, owners, or whatever. So my trip back to Maryland was exciting, just with potential. And when I got back here, I promptly reached out to OpenSpace and asked for a demo, invited as many of our PM team members to join. And so it just has stuck in our mind until we got to a point, that we were able to start using the product. So very excited about it, and still that way.
Yeah, and I know that Field Notes is a tool that you find a lot of value in. Could you talk a little bit more about kind of how you find value with Field Notes and kind of with your responsibilities, and also collaborating with other departments like design teams as well?
Yeah, well, communication's obviously very, very important in what we do, and just making sure the right stakeholders are given as much information as possible, so that, time is money for everybody, from subcontractors to owners to consultants. And, to get the information to the job site quickest is, how do we let everyone knows exactly what we're talking about. And, basically the 360 environment of captures is really amazing. So the field notes, when that came available, is like, okay, well, now I can essentially take a push pin and put it into a 360 environment, and there is no confusion as to what I'm asking about. So I can put a very short comment, assign it to somebody, give a due date, and our turnaround in responses has exponentially improved. And obviously the use in the field, they could quickly look at it and have the same reference points to follow that direction, and just a really powerful tool.
Yeah. And I guess I'll pass it over to Susie now. If kind of tell us how you became aware of OpenSpace, and then how you started using that in your day-to-day role managing safety teams.
Well, I think living with Tom, working with Tom, his excitement over OpenSpace got me very intrigued. And I do remember after he came back from Groundbreak, him talking about it. And when I saw a demo, I thought, oh, that's very cool. And that was kind of the end of it for me. Well, when we started a project on the West Coast, us being on the East Coast, it was in San Diego, Tom added me to that project. So every time there was a capture, I would look at it and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, hang on a minute. And I became the queen of twirling the capture so I could see what was going on. And I would see something I wasn't happy with and go, oh my God. And I just kind of started messing around with it. And I knew about field notes, but I had never done one. And once I learned the power of a field note, that's when it just kind of naturally happened. And OpenSpace has truly become my safety partner. I kid you not. It gives me the 360 eyeballs that I wish I had around my head when I'm on a job site, although I'd look really weird. So OpenSpace does that for me.
Yeah. And how has kind of you raising safety issues to project teams, how has that been received from the project teams early on? And how have you overcome potentially some of the challenges with, I guess, the idea that, big brother or big sister Safety Susie has a watchful eye over project teams? How have you addressed that, and how have project teams responded?
Okay, so initially I was pretty bold and I would get a little upset maybe and send out messages, and I'd be getting these phone calls like, hey, what are you doing? And through time, I was like, okay, I need buy-in. So I need to take a really nice approach to this. And we've all kind of evolved on this project out west that I referred to, and going through the captures and pointing things out, actually taking a picture of it and sending it to a subcontractor creates a great conversation when you have a visual in front of you. You can't run from it. So I've kind of just taken a softer approach, and that team out there is on board and used to it now. So we're in the process of implementing this across the board on all projects. So some teams have not been part of this yet, but will be very soon, because we're getting ready to add this to several new projects coming up.
Tom, from a project management standpoint, how do you view the integration of OpenSpace and field notes from a safety perspective? I guess by having that more integrated approach with a safety team, how does that impact project teams and then kind of your responsibility to your customer as well?
Well, it's a big piece. We have because we work nationwide, we have a lot of contractors that we bring along with us. The safety being a very important piece. They have our subcontractors have the same challenges we do. They can't have safety people or project managers from their home office visiting the job site, at the frequency that we would want them to. So the open space environment gives us an opportunity to give them, job site awareness and let them know, your team is, performing well, or, these instances you're having some consistency at multiple jobs, and we can show them a reference point, and using the via field note and reports, it gives them a chance to look at it. They can contact those individuals on the site and just say, hey, straighten things up. But, as a company, I think it's very powerful because it shows the awareness that Humphrey Rich Construction has on safety, and we're looking out for everybody, and we want to make sure everybody gets home safe. This is a tool that we're using that is helpful to you all, and gives some transparency to subcontractors that wasn't available to us before. And so I see it as very powerful. We use it in our production meetings here at the office. And Susie can, at some point she'll have data that has history to it that can also benefit all of us in just letting our own staff understand how this tool is much more than simply taking captures and walking a job site. It is ultimately going to be a tool that serves you better down the road.
And Susie, another stakeholder that I guess could benefit from this would be any other risk partners that you have, or insurance providers that you may be working with on these projects. Is that something that you've talked with any of your insurance providers about this? Have you talked to them about this use case? And if so, what was their response, and what's your kind of confidence going forward in working with them and kind of showing them this safety use case with OpenSpace?
That's a great question. I adore my risk manager. We work and partner with CNA Insurance, and Sean will come out in the field with me to just kind of check up on us. And when I told him about using OpenSpace, I think we were his first client to actually use it. And he's like, whoa, this is really cool. And I think since then, he has other clients that are getting on board with it. So they're very happy about it. And it just, like we've talked about, it's just another set of eyeballs when I can't be 12 places at one time.
Yeah. Where do you, I guess from a safety perspective, where do you see this where do you see opportunities in the future of additional use cases or additional value, and kind of leading to safer job sites for Humphrey Rich?
Well, like we've talked about, we are right now working on implementing and getting teams that have never used this on board. It's not always easy to teach an old dog new tricks, as the saying goes. But I want to kind of talk about one case in particular who's helping us in the regard of being our superintendent champion, because he loves open space. So Tim, who's working on a project up in New England, we were talking one day and he said, Susie, I have to tell you something. He says, I did everything I could not to come to the office to pick up this camera, because I didn't know what this open space thing was. And it was just something else I had to deal with. So he finally got into the office, was given the whole demo on how this works and what to do with it. And I'm telling you, I am shooting straight. He absolutely loves open space, and he laughs at how easy it is. And he's already walking the site anyway, so he just plunks this camera on his head. And what's interesting, all of the subcontractors know the power of it. So yeah. I'm telling you, Tom and I, we love open space. And I think our enthusiasm has helped a little bit. We're not 100%, but I think eventually we will get there with buy-in.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I think it's such an incredible use case and story how the two of you in each of your roles, being on the project side and the safety side, have found such an incredible way to maximize the use of open space and ideally leading to better project outcomes for your customer and safer job sites. It's your enthusiasm is contagious, but it's really great, and we appreciate you guys coming and talking about this use case and showing other people how they can get more use out of open space. I think kind of my closing take is this is a great example of a way in which you may be only using open space for one use case or for project teams or only for a safety team, but talk with other departments, talk with other stakeholders. And this is a great example of how you can get more out of your open space subscription. So Tom and Susie, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing this story and being such strong advocates of open space.
Our pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity. It's a great platform to be a part of.
Excellent. Thanks, Michael. And thank you all from Humphrey Rich for sharing your story with us today.